Let me start with a truth that will shake you. Sometimes silence isn't peace, it's power disguised as punishment. Have you ever wondered why someone who once couldn't stop talking to you suddenly disappears, leaving you drowning in questions? One day they're full of affection, attention, and charm, and the next they vanish, cold, quiet, unreachable. That, my friend, is not confusion. It's control, and it's one of the oldest emotional games ever played by the narcissist. Earl Nightingale once said, "Everything begins with an idea, and behind every silence from a narcissist there's an idea too, a dark one, the idea that if they can control how you feel, they can control who you become." They go silent not because they've changed, but because they want you to change. Your mood, your focus, your peace. Their silence is not an accident, it's a strategy. It's a move in a psychological chess game where your reaction is the trophy they're trying to win. But what if, this time, you didn't play? What if you refused to chase their attention, refused to drown in their silence, refused to let your peace become their playground? Because once you understand what's really happening, once you see through the illusion, the silence no longer hurts. It teaches. It transforms. This isn't just about narcissists. It's about awakening. It's about learning to guard your inner world so tightly that no one's silence can shake your self-worth again. In the next few moments, I'll show you why the narcissist suddenly goes silent, and how that silence, once a weapon against you, can become your greatest teacher and the turning point of your personal power. Stay until the end, because what you're about to understand won't just change how you deal with toxic people, it will change how you see yourself forever. Silence is not peace, it's control. The narcissist's silence is one of the most deceptive forms of manipulation ever crafted by the human ego. It disguises itself as calm, as distance, as reflection, but beneath it lives the same hunger for control that drives every one of their actions. When the narcissist goes silent, it is not because they are at peace with you, it's because they want you to lose peace within yourself. They are not retreating for clarity, they are retreating to create confusion. They know that the human mind is most vulnerable when faced with uncertainty. Silence becomes their weapon, their invisible leash that tugs at your heart, your self-worth, your sense of stability. You begin to wonder, what did I do wrong? Why did they stop talking? What changed? And that's exactly what they want, to make you question your reality. Because the more you question yourself, the more control they gain over your emotions. Their silence is not an act of distance, it's an act of dominance. They use absence as a form of presence, a haunting presence that keeps echoing in your thoughts, even when they're nowhere near you. They understand the psychology of attention and they exploit it with precision. But here lies the truth. The narcissist never wants you to see. Silence only has power over those who fear it. The moment you stop fearing their absence, their silence loses its grip. When you no longer interpret their withdrawal as rejection but as revelation, you begin to take your power back. Because silence exposes truth. It reveals what words were hiding. When someone can only connect through control, their quietness is not peace, it's proof of weakness. It shows that they cannot sustain connection without domination. And that is not love, that is bondage. Peace is never forced. Peace flows from understanding. But the narcissist's silence is designed to suffocate, not soothe. It's a pause meant to make you chase them, to make you apologize for things you didn't do, to make you beg for clarity that you already deserve. They want you to interpret their silence as punishment, so that when they speak again, you receive their words as mercy. This is how control is built, through cycles of absence and attention, withdrawal and reward. And unless you awaken to the game, you remain a prisoner to its pattern. So stop chasing their voice. Let their silence speak for them. Let it show you who they truly are, someone who confuses manipulation with strength. Real strength communicates. Real love does not disappear to prove a point. It stands present through the discomfort of honesty. The narcissist hides because truth exposes them. Silence becomes their last defense against accountability. But you are not bound to interpret their absence as your fault. You are free to see it as your liberation. The silence that once wounded you can become your greatest teacher. It teaches you that peace does not depend on another's response. It lives within your own awareness. You start to see that their silence is not a mirror of your inadequacy. It's a reflection of their emotional emptiness. They cannot give you understanding because they have never given it to themselves. They cannot speak with compassion because they've never learned the language of humility. Their silence, though cold and calculated, exposes their greatest fear, that you might find peace without them. And that is exactly what you must do. When the narcissist goes silent, do not fill the gap with your begging, your explanations, or your overthinking. Fill it with your growth. Use that quiet to hear your own voice again. Because your voice, once drowned by manipulation, is the very sound that will set you free. Learn to find beauty in stillness. Learn to interpret their silence not as rejection, but as redirection. Every time they go silent, they create a space where you can rise. Every absence from them becomes an invitation to return to yourself. In that sacred quiet, you begin to hear truths that were hidden behind their noise. You start to feel the strength of solitude, the clarity that comes when your mind is no longer clouded by constant emotional games. You begin to realize that peace is not found in their presence, it's found in your boundaries. You stop craving their words because you finally see that their words were never meant to build you, they were meant to bind you. Their silence used to shake your confidence, but now it shapes your awareness. When you stop fearing their silence, they lose their favorite weapon. They lose the ability to control your emotions through absence. They lose the game because you stop playing. You stop sending messages they never answer. You stop replaying conversations in your head. You stop trying to fix what was never broken in you. It was broken in them. The silence that once made you anxious now makes you wise. It reminds you that peace is not something they can give or take. It's something you own. The narcissist's silence is not peace. It's performance. It's their way of saying, I control when connection begins and ends. But true connection cannot be controlled. It flows, it communicates, it respects. And when you realize that, their silence no longer feels like punishment. It feels like proof that you've outgrown manipulation. You no longer crave their return because their presence no longer defines your worth. You understand now that peace is not found in their apology. It's found in your awareness of truth. So the next time the narcissist goes silent, don't panic. Don't chase. Don't crumble. Breathe. Observe. Remember that their silence says more about them than it ever will about you. It says they need control to feel significant. It says they fear your strength more than they value your heart. It says they can only love when they are being worshipped, not when they are being challenged. And when you finally see that, the silence that once broke you becomes your breakthrough. You rise with clarity, you walk with calm, and you speak only to build, never to beg. Because now you know that silence is only control to those who need noise to feel alive. But you have learned to live from within. You no longer fear their silence because you've made peace with your own. And in that moment the narcissist loses the one thing they were fighting hardest to keep: your power. Your reaction is their reward. These words reveal one of the deepest truths about the psychology of narcissistic control. The narcissist feeds on energy, your energy. Every sigh, every tear, every outburst, every anxious message becomes fuel for their fragile ego. Their silence, their provocation, their emotional withdrawal are not random. They are precise triggers designed to pull reactions out of you, because to the narcissist, attention is power. Whether it comes as love, anger, or desperation, it all tastes the same to them. As long as you react, you feed their illusion of dominance. The narcissist studies you like a map. They know what makes you doubt yourself, what makes you chase validation, what makes you fear loss. They test your emotions, and every time you react, they learn how to control you more effectively. When they go silent, they are not seeking space, they are seeking proof. Proof that you still care. Proof that they still matter. proof that their absence has power over you. And when you break down, send a message, or beg for answers, they smile. Not because they feel love, but because they feel control. That's the cruel beauty of their game. It's psychological, not emotional. They pretend to withdraw love to see if you'll chase it. They withhold attention to make you desperate for crumbs of it. They test your patience to see how far they can push your peace before it cracks. But once you understand this pattern, you begin to take your strength back. You realize that silence is not something you have to fill. You realize that your reaction is what they crave most, and withholding it is your greatest weapon. The moment you stop reacting, the game collapses, because a narcissist without attention is like fire without oxygen. It burns out. Their power doesn't come from their silence, it comes from your response to it. When you stop explaining, defending, pleading, or proving your worth, they are left with nothing to manipulate. You become unpredictable, and to a narcissist, unpredictability is terrifying. They can only control what they can anticipate. When you stop reacting, you disrupt the script they've written in their mind. You turn their silence into your strength. But I know this is not easy. When someone you love suddenly goes quiet, it hits the soul. It feels unnatural not to chase, not to ask, not to fix. Your heart wants to bridge the gap. You think silence means danger and you rush to fill it with your voice. But this is exactly where your spiritual strength is tested. Because silence is not your enemy, impulse is. The narcissist wants to keep you in emotional motion, because motion keeps you from seeing the truth. Stillness is where you see clearly. Calmness is where you reclaim clarity. When you resist the urge to react, you're not being cold, you're being conscious. You're not ignoring, you're empowering yourself. You're declaring that your peace is not for sale. You're telling the universe, I refuse to be a puppet to someone else's manipulation. And the moment you reach that point, something miraculous happens. The narcissist loses interest. They can't play a game where you've taken the board away. Their silence no longer controls you, it exposes them, because the only thing worse for a narcissist than being hated is being ignored. Indifference is the one language they cannot translate. This is where spiritual maturity enters. Earl Nightingale often said that success is the progressive realization of a worthy ideal. In this case, success is the progressive realization of your inner worth, knowing that your emotions belong to you, not to those who provoke them. You begin to master the art of response, not reaction. Reaction is survival, but response is wisdom. Reaction is fear, but response is faith. When you respond with calm awareness, you're no longer living by their rhythm, you're walking by your own. The narcissist will test this new peace. They will try again. They will poke, provoke, and pretend to be changed. They will use silence, pity, anger, or flattery, anything to get a rise out of you, but this time you will see the game for what it is. You will observe, not absorb. You will recognize manipulation where you once saw mystery. You will learn that not every action deserves a reaction, and not every silence deserves to be filled. You'll start to notice that the more you hold your ground, the quieter your soul becomes. And that quiet is where your strength is born. Your reaction is their reward, but your stillness is your victory. Stillness is not weakness, it's power contained. It's the strength of someone who has nothing to prove. When you stop reacting, you force the narcissist to face the emptiness within themselves. You hold up a mirror they cannot stand to see. They'll accuse you of being cold, detached, or unloving, but don't believe those words. They are the cries of someone who has lost control of your emotion. They will twist your calmness into cruelty because they fear the peace that doesn't include them. In time, you'll see that the silence they use to manipulate you becomes the silence that liberates you. You'll find peace in the very space that used to hurt. You'll stop analyzing their every move and start investing that energy back into yourself, your growth, your healing, your purpose. You'll realize that you don't need to prove your worth to anyone who uses silence as punishment. Your worth was never up for debate. It was only waiting for your recognition. So, when the narcissist goes silent again, smile. Not with arrogance, but with awareness. You now know what's happening. You no longer chase the noise of validation because you've found the sound of peace. The very silence that once caused anxiety now carries wisdom. You've broken the cycle. You've stepped out of the emotional maze. You've learned that real power is not in being loud, it's in being unshaken. Remember this truth. You teach others how to treat you by how you respond to their behavior. When you stop rewarding manipulation with attention, it dies. When you stop feeding the game, it ends. And when you stop reacting to silence, you rise into sovereignty. Because in the end, it's not their silence that defines you, it's your self-control that frees you. The moment you master your reaction, you master the moment. You no longer dance to the rhythm of someone else's chaos. You move in harmony with peace, with purpose, with divine awareness. And that is the highest form of strength, the strength of one who no longer reacts to darkness, but radiates light. In the end, remember this unshakable truth. Your reaction is their reward, but your peace is your power. The narcissist thrives on your emotions, but the moment you stop reacting, their control collapses. You don't need to argue, explain, or prove anything. The one who seeks control through chaos always loses to the one who chooses calm. When you remain centered, when you breathe through the silence and refuse to play their game, you win a battle they don't even understand, the battle for your soul. You see, strength doesn't always roar. Sometimes it whispers. It's the quiet confidence that says, I no longer need your validation to know my value. The narcissist's silence, once your prison, becomes your pathway to freedom. What they meant for manipulation becomes your awakening. You start to realize that the real test was never about them. It was about you learning how powerful your self-control truly is. Earl Nightingale once said, we become what we think about. And when you think peace, you become peace. When you think strength, you embody it. When you choose not to react, you elevate above their reach. You stop being part of their chaos and start living in your own clarity. So walk away with dignity, not anger. Let silence be your teacher, not your torment. Let self-control be your crown. Because when you stop reacting to manipulation, you stop being controlled by it. And in that sacred silence, you will find the voice of something greater than pain, the voice of wisdom, the whisper of freedom, and the presence of your true self finally awakening.